What's up, Bucs fans? Welcome back to another edition of Pirate Parlay here on the Sick Podcast. Not a great show to talk about. We had a tough loss this past week to Atlanta Falcons. First place in the NFC South Division on the line. Bucs just couldn't put it home when they had the opportunity over and over again, losing to the Falcons 16-3 on a last-minute field goal as time expired. You know, it was a tough week for them. Still can't get anything moving on the running game. The defense showed up throughout the game with 3 red zone fumbles to keep and limit points on the board from the Atlanta Falcons, but the offense couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. Baker threw a bad pick late to kind of help seal their fate, and then the defense just kind of had a communication breakdown on a few plays that really gave the Falcons enough life and energy to go down there and kick the game-winning field goal. But the Bucs don't have time to think about that, and neither do you, because football's already here just tomorrow. We're talking about the Buccaneers traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills on Thursday Night Football, everyone's favorite night of football. And we'll get into it. We're going to break it down. I've got a special guest, as I always do, to go behind the enemy lines here, take a look at where the Bills are, what they've done statistically. They haven't been great the last 3 games. We'll talk about that too, and talk about, is there a realistic chance that this Bucs team could potentially find a way to upset the Bills? I don't know, but we'll talk about it. We'll get into it when we come back here at Pirate Parlay.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
We're back here at Pirate Parlay by the Sick Podcast Network, bringing you great content. And as always, we've had tons of players on. We've had tons of great guests on, breaking down the teams that they're going to face to give you that inside information from guys who are there every day on the beat, covering their teams and bringing us the inside information that we know we can only get as a local reporter. The national news, they don't know what they're talking about. They read the headlines written by these guys, and of course written by yours truly over at Sports Illustrated's Bucs Game Day. Find all of our content there. But that's why I like to bring these segments to you, because not many people are doing it in the Bucs landscape there. And I love to bring that fan, that beat writer, that sports follower, podcaster, whoever they are, who are there, boots on the ground, following these teams to give you all of that inside information. We're doing it again. Today we have Buffalo Bills in the house. We've got Muki Hawkins, director at Power 965 up there in Buffalo. He's a Bills beat reporter and host of Bleav in Bills. Bleav Podcast Network's been hooking us up with all the guests. So shout out to them. He's going to come break down everything we need to know about the Buffalo Bills this week. Muki, how the heck are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think there's still plenty of optimism around the Bucs. Personally, I'm doing great. But I think as far as someone that covers the team, there's still plenty of optimism that, even after losing a game you probably should have won and dropping 2 in a row, the NFC South is just so bad that I think the Bucs could still turn it around. Their defense is playing well enough. They can just get their offense going a little bit. I think they have an opportunity. But on the flip side there, with the Bills, kind of shaky the last few weeks. What's going on up in Buffalo land, and what's going on with the Bills?
Well, JC, you feel like, I guess, how we feel. Games that you should have won. The past 3 weeks, it hasn't been good for this Buffalo Bills team. Been dealing with injuries once again, bitten by the injury bug. But at this point, I still feel that they have enough quality depth. They still should be in a different situation than what they're in right now. So they better figure it out, because the past 3 games have been 1-2. And, these guys that's have a high-powered offense are struggling to find its rhythm mid-season. So that's not a good situation. That could clearly be an advantage to Tampa Bay, depending on, who put it together, in a short work week, who was able to fix, the Band-Aids, take the Band-Aids off, and, has that real good cosmetic surgery to get things going again for their team.
Yeah, you look at the Bills, obviously, that first game marred in controversy. Was there a trip? Was there a push? What went on with that final return? But after that, again, against, 2 of those games against weaker competition, in the Raiders in Washington. They beat them pretty handily. Miami, after blowing out Denver 70-10, they made good work of the Dolphins, 48-20, with a nice home win against them. Travel across the ponds and drop a close one to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Win a close one, which they probably shouldn't have even been a competition really with the New York Giants, who have really struggled to get anything going. And then, of course, this last weekend's close loss to the New England Patriots, walk-off touchdown from Mac Jones and the Patriots. I think some Bucs fans optimistic that they might be able to pull this off on a short week, but specifically those 3 games. I mean, the win against the Giants was just not indicative of what this team has looked like. You look at what they're being able to do right now. They're 3rd in the league in scoring. They are scoring 28.3 points per game. That game, they only were able to put up 14 points. They got back on track a little bit with the Patriots, but still, that was a struggle fest throughout the whole game. What is it about this offense that has been performing at such a high clip? And we'll get into some of those other stats on the offensive side that's kind of struggled to find their groove until, sometimes late in the game or even not at all in case of that Giants game.
Well, they just got rid of just got away from being a balanced team, and it's kind of foreign to them when basically this Bills team is pass oriented. But you have to adjust to the times at sometimes, especially when teams have kind of like figured you out, from a standpoint on, well, okay, we just not gonna allow y'all to beat us this way, so we're gonna play this cover 2 shell and see if y'all just goofy enough to still keep trying to throw the ball all over the yard. Right. So we, sometimes we're a little high-headed, but you have to have balance. Your offense have to evolve. And, when you look at the Bills when they won their first 3 games against the Raiders and in Miami and Washington, they had great balance. They looked virtually unbeatable, when Josh Allen was under center and they were running the football and they were having play action and guys were wide open. They went away from running the football, having that balance. And, that's why you see the struggles, and that's why Bills can't get in a rhythm, and basically they're in dogfights right now. Of course, Tampa Bay feel that they could, come in here and get one on the Bills when you lose to a 1-5 team and you struggle against a -0-5 Giants team. So, yeah, of course, Tampa Bay will have, a percentage of confidence coming into Buffalo on a short work week.
Yeah, talk about that balance. It's something the Bills have lacked over the last few years, known as that passing game and a team, and we'll get into that with Stephon Diggs and what he's done. But really, the emergence of James Cook has kind of taken this team to a different spot than it's been. Long gone is Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, who just couldn't get it done. James Cook has 419 yards on the year for a healthy 4.8 yard per carry average. Just talk about his emergence. I know they really liked him last year, what he brings to this offense and how it's kind of when they're playing that balanced style changes what they do and what they can do, how they can attack you.
Well, yeah, I asked Coach McDermott that yesterday, with his production, 13 carries, coach, is that enough? Is that enough to win a ball game for you out of James Cook? I mean, his production, he should warrant more touches, whether if you're throwing the ball or he's running the ball. Again, you just said 4.8. That's 5 yards a clip just running the football. So he's only touching the ball on an average 10 to, let's say, 13, magic number 13. He touched the ball 13 times a game. We break that down into 4 quarters. That's what, 3 times a quarter he's touching the ball, whether it's run or pass. That's not enough. When they break you down analytically, all right, he's not getting the ball here. It's like what you see is what you get, kind of, when you look at this Bills offense, and they have way too much weapons, way too much talent for them to be struggling in any shape, form, or fashion, especially when you got a player like James Cook. So, I mean, I like some of the things they did do with him, but they didn't do enough of it last week. Hopefully they can continue on with that, because again, I talk about that balance, right? James Cook was one of the reasons why, the Bills were 3-0. He was what, top 5 rusher in the NFL those for by week 4.
Right.
That should let you know when you come out of the Giants game in the second half, Josh Allen is 11 for 12 because you ran the ball in the second half. James Cook, he had 71 rushing yards,
Right.
that game. Majority of that in the second half. You have 2 scores. You have 2 drives. Where one was 10-minute drive that, Giants only had the ball to open up the second half. And then by the time they got the ball again, it was like 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They only
Right.
touched the ball one more time after that, truthfully, until the Bills took another 7 minutes off the clock and scored again. You don't do that by passing the ball. You do that by running the ball, having balance, and the run sets that up. But when the Bills want to get in shotgun, they struggle, and that's the thing. Not being committed to having that balance is basically the Bills' Achilles heel right now.
Yeah, you look at the Bucs. It's kind of overcommitment to that balance for them with a rushing game and a rushing attack that just clearly is not working for them at all. They're going through a bunch of changes, obviously scheme changes in different situations like that. New piece in the offensive line, bigger role for Rashad White. I mean, but when you're 29th in the league, averaging 77.8 yards a game, you've some that balance doesn't work when the passing is proving to be a much better factor. But that doesn't seem like it's been the case with the Bills, even though they are one of the best passing teams in the league. I mean, if you look at they're in eighth place overall, 263 passing yards per game. I mentioned how much they're scoring, and that passing offense is a big part of the reason. When you can get Josh Allen, one of the league's best quarterbacks, into a rhythm where he's hitting one of the league's best wide receivers in Stephon Diggs, a great complementary piece in Gabe Davis as well, and really, I would say, intriguing tight end in a Dalton Kincaid, who they took in the first round. That passing game has been so formidable, but Josh has made some mistakes too. There's been some issues with interceptions, which is his ratio is about 50 to 50. He's got 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. As far as the passing game, just talk about the weapons, how explosive they are. We all know how Stephon Diggs, but how has his role changed a little bit at all this year, especially going towards more of a balanced attack? Gabe Davis, the consistency, and obviously the emergence of Kincaid, especially now with Dawson Knox set to go on IR to miss a couple weeks with a wrist injury.
Well, all that stuff you just said doesn't work if the coordination ain't right, and the problem where you see where Josh is regressing is inexperience in it's the inexperience in the play calling. I mean, 2 years of being a play caller is kind of tough for your star quarterback to ascend into the star that he needs to be when the offensive coordinator has only been offensive coordinator for 2 years. Josh Allen has more experience as a quarterback than his offensive coordinator calling plays. So, that's kind of like stunting his growth a little bit on accident. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
So this where you see those struggles. This where you see Josh, if they want to say he regressed, yes, he regressed because he hasn't never thrown an interception inside the red zone when Dable was the offensive coordinator. Last year, he threw, 6 of them. So that let me know that was the difference in reference to that. But yeah, and that's where you see the struggles at times too, as far as the creativity in certain games. Gabe Davis had a phenomenal training camp. At times, he appears to be like he's a ghost out there on the field, and it's not to his fault. Is you got to get this guy involved. You can't just use him a certain kind of way, especially if you're using him the same way the way you used him last year. Defenses will catch on to that, So that is one thing. Finally got Kincaid going, this week. Hopefully that can continue. So it's just a lot of things that's holding this thing back. But it all, it points, there. This Bills has more than enough firepower offensively for them to be struggling. That definitely lies on the play caller there. So, I don't think teams are even playing Josh Allen at this point. I think they're just more or less playing the play caller, and because that's always going to have more experience. That's like Belichick versus Ken Dorsey. Who
Right.
knows going to win that, right? So
Right.
that's where I see the pros and cons and where certain games lie at. This is who this guy is up against defensively. Ken Dorsey is up against Bill Belichick, who are,
Right.
9 times out of 10, we all know who wins that battle. So
Right. It's interesting because you look back at that game plan he had week 4 against the Dolphins, and it was very creative. The way they used the different pieces that they have there to put down a Dolphins team that had just scored 70 points and limited them to just, the defense is a big part of that, but to be able to put those points on them to get ahead to play is that certain style that the defense has played was a huge part of that. And, with Stephon Diggs, it seems like every season we're going into this and we're hearing about controversy between him and Josh Allen. We're seeing, chirping happen on the sideline. What's the relationship with those two? And with Stephon Diggs, just talk about the consistency that he has year in and year out, even if there are things going on behind the scenes. I mean, he's got, 678 yards, averaging a first down per catch, 6 touchdowns in the season. It just seems like year in and year out, even when it was Kirk Cousins, he's just a consistent overall receiver that can kind of beat any coverage you have on him, beat any cornerback you have on him. And he doesn't seem like he takes many games off when you're going up against him.
Oh, absolutely. I don't want to sound like a homer or anything. To me, Stephon Diggs is the best receiver in the NFL. He's been the best receiver in the NFL. His numbers have been consistent, especially since he's been in the Bills uniform. So, and he's played in every game. So, that's where I draw the line at with that, because one-on-one, we know nobody can check him. Double teams, that's still 50-50. If you bracketed him, you probably have a better chance doing that. But that's 2 to 3 guys, he takes away from a defense. So other people should be open. So again, that relies on the play caller on, making that happen. But again, yeah, Diggs is a dog, man. And you got to be able to get the ball in your playmakers' hands. Just imagine if that didn't happen. You have games like the playoff game with Cincinnati every week if that didn't happen, because nobody else is getting the rock. So you gotta go down, you gotta go with your dogs, but at the end of the day, they just need more balance. I don't care if people want to say, oh yeah, they did those points against Washington and the Raiders. Yeah, they're supposed to do that. They did that against Miami. Yeah, they're supposed to do that too. But we had a Trey White out there, we had a Matt Milano out there, we had a Daquan Jones out there. All them, that's a big 3 to be losing right now. But this Bills team still have enough quality depth to win games. And then, it's really the past 3 games, the offense really has struggled and put the defense in binds because, them being out on the field too long. That's where I see that at. And, defense, they gave up the game-winning drive. That you put that one on them. But the first 2, definitely the offense, struggled to, even get in rhythm. They even struggled against the Patriots to get in rhythm. So the consistent thing we know is that the offense is definitely has more issues than the defensive side, So when you look at it, man, numbers don't lie, right? We talk about the numbers. The numbers don't lie. So when the Bills was on that 3-game winning streak, they ran the ball combined. Now, this is not Josh Allen's carries or anything. This is their 3-headed monster with Harris, Murray, and Cook.
Yep.
In those 3 games, 75 carries, 396 yards, 4 touchdowns. Josh Allen numbers during that 3-game winning streak. He threw for 78% of his passes, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Right.
Now, in the past 3 games, Josh Allen completion percentage, 66%. It still ain't bad. 701 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The Bills' run game in a 3-game span with just their core running backs, 45 carries, 195 yards, no touchdowns.
Right.
1-2 record. So we just talking numbers. You should understand running the ball, getting Josh on the center is the key to success. During that 3-game span, they looked unbeatable. And you said it. They did that against a Miami Dolphins team. But one thing I could say that was different between Miami and the Raiders and Washington is Miami always plays a style of defense that the Bills love. That's why the Bills won 10 out of the last 11 games. Right. They play a lot of man-on-man, so the Bills can afford to go in that shotgun, which they like to do, and just, give candy out to everybody. But you can't do that against everybody. So they just thought that was the key to success and forgot the other 2 games. And they just been stuck in a rut, just being in shotgun, resorting back to the week 1 playbook, if you ask me.
You talk about the offense, and obviously for Josh Allen, for the running game, for anybody to even get going, it all starts up front, right? Right. Teams win in the trenches, and so far this season, Dion Dawkins has been really good for the Bills. Just his pass blocking grade. He's only allowed 11 pressures all season, 0 sacks, and he's been kind of holding it down over there. How has the rest of the line looked? You've got a rookie starting in O'Cyrus Torrance. And kind of if the Bucs are going to be able to exploit anybody on that offensive line with their front 7, who are you worried about?
I don't know. Maybe Spencer Brown on right tackle is definitely not O'Cyrus Torrance. I mean, he's been, he's been defying the odds every week. He struggled with a few false start penalties, but I don't think he's gave up a sack yet neither. And, he didn't do that in college. And so far he's been rather consistent. So I like the line. We have a new improved line from last year. They really identified what they are. If we're going to pass the ball, then we need guys that can pass block. Instead of bringing the guys in like Roger Saffold, who was a 8 straight pro bowler, but he's a mauler. He's a run blocker. And, we asking the guy who's an all-pro mauler to pass block. This is something that, that's not his forte. So for the Bills to understand what they really need, you see the results. Josh really don't get sacked as much. And if he start running a little bit more, he probably wouldn't get sacked at all. But, for the most part, this line is pretty solid. Deion, again, isn't back in rare form. The free agent pickup of Connor McGovern, alongside Deion, Mitch Morris coming off a Pro Bowl year, a still second-round pick in O'Cyrus, and, small school stud in Spencer. So, the line is solid, way better than last year. And, they've been balling. We just got to run the football a little bit more. Help them out. Run the ball.
Running the ball, too, keeps drives going, keeps the defense fresh. And so far, this defense has, I think, maybe exceeded expectations with some of the injuries that they have. They're 5th in points allowed, only 16.9. What really kind of jumps out to me is the sacks. I mean, they're 2nd in sacks in the league, 24 with 24 in the season. And takeaways, I mean, they're 3rd in the league in interceptions with 8 of those as well. We know, for the first couple games of the season as well, they were missing one of their biggest acquisitions in Von Miller. But you look at everybody else who kind of stepped up for that team, and the Bills have poured resources into that position, either through free agency, monetarily wise, or through the draft with Greg Russo, AJ Epinesa. They traded away Boogie Basham, but they drafted him fairly high. They brought in Von Miller on a big money deal. Leonard Floyd was brought in as well, veteran pass rusher. They still have Shaq Lawson hanging around as well. But you see, and of course, off-ball defensive tackle as Oliver over there as well. But you look at what they've been able to do against the getting after the quarterback, and that's kind of been the Achilles heel of this defense for the last couple of years. What about this defense has allowed them to turn it around and really kind of start to get after the quarterback this year? Is it just the additions, or what else is it?
Oh, Coach McDermott is the play caller now. So I do see a more aggressive style of defense coming from where he's come from. He's a Jim Johnson disciple, one of the best defensive coordinators, in the NFL. So, he's going to hit you. We know that the Bills is going to be aggressive with the pieces that he's had and developed over his 5 years. You can do just about anything with that. So being aggressive, especially when you have two all-pro safeties back there and probably one of the best corners in the game before he got hurt, it gives you confidence to play around a little bit in the box, and be a little bit more aggressive when you got, that type of veteranship, in your back end.
You mentioned, some injuries. There are obviously two really big ones at the cornerback position, at the linebacker position, with Matt Milano going out, who has just played stellar for the Bills over the last few years. And it was a really big loss. He's a tackling machine. He's really underrated as well, and I don't think he gets enough love and credit around the league. Then obviously Tre'Davious White too, with that torn Achilles, a huge loss. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, top 10 for sure when healthy and fully on. Who has stepped up? Who's going to step up into those roles for them and take that next level, hopefully? And obviously huge shoes to fill, but who are those guys who are stepping into those spots, and what have you seen from them so far?
Well, you got, first round draft pick Kyer Elam, and you got 6th round draft pick Christian Benford. Two young studs, both about 6'1", 6'2". Benford a little bit more scheme fit. He played the same style of defense that the Bills played in college back in Villanova. Kyer is a more physical man press corner with speed. So, so it kind of give you the best of both worlds. And, they do got two cornerstones to deal with. You do obviously have Dane Jackson, who they drafted in the 7th round 4 years ago, and Cam Lewis as well. So they got some quality depth. They just picked up Josh Norman, old man self. But I think that's more or less as a players coach, more, just helping those guys understand what Coach McDermott is looking for within that scheme, especially when your veteran leader is out. So you got to bring another guy in that's going to better help them to understand the scheme a little bit better and quicker.
With Tre'Davious White out and some guys having to step up into that role, obviously, someone's thrust into a starting role. You kind of lose somebody out of that slot role. Who's playing primarily for the slot for the Bills when they do need to go when they do need a nickel cornerback on the field?
Well, it's Taron Johnson. So Taron Johnson is the nickel corner. He's been getting picked on as of late, but he's definitely one of the most underrated nickel corners in the league. He's the third linebacker out there. It's Taron Johnson, and then you could bring Cam Lewis in, and then they got Taylor Rapp. So sometimes you may see Taylor Rapp, playing that nickel spot too.
You look at this team; it's kind of funny. When you look at, I mentioned they have 8 interceptions. 5 of them have come from linebackers or edge defenders. That's not something you see all the time. What is it about this system, this scheme, that allows linebackers to just make plays on the ball?
Well, at times, man, you get that pass rush, you get that good combination of pass rush and coverage, and when that happens, that's the beauty of it, right? Great things happen. So, sometimes, coach is able to get that pressure that he needs with his forefront. But sometimes, he may see it. He may, send a 5th or a 6th guy at times. And, the coverage is right on, So, you got to get Coach McDermott's credit. The pressure bust pipes. And, he's proven that, especially with those linebackers, getting, hands on the football, more than those DBs.
Yeah, I mean, one of those linebackers, Terrell Bernard, 3rd round pick out of last year. He has really played excellent for the Bills. What was it about the jump that he made from last year to this year? You look at him, he leads the team, well, tied for the team lead and with two interceptions, but leads the team with 68 tackles. The next closest player is Teron Johnson with 35. He's just been a tackling machine, obviously making turnovers as well. You look at the stats he's been able to do: 2 passes deflections, 2 sacks on the season as well. Just kind of all over the field. What kind of growth have you seen from him, and what problems does he present as a defender?
Well, a lot of questions was coming in. Who would he be basically replacing? Would it be Tremaine Edmonds, or would it be Matt Milano because of the body frame, right? So, he was groomed really to play both if need be. One thing about him at Baylor, if you go to his last game in that Sugar Bowl, he had 20 tackles, sack, forced fumbles. He had that kind of same game he had against Washington, right? So, he flashed like that. And then he's cerebral, so which enabled him to win the middle linebacker spot because, being a middle linebacker, you're the play caller too. So getting, the whole team and the calls on the front end to relate to the back end is so key. Because if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? If the front end is wrong, then the back end is wrong. So, right. When you lose a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, who's been that play caller for 5 years, you as a defensive coordinator or head coach, you just all right, you on autopilot, But, you got to find that guy all over again. You go to a guy that you can trust, a guy that you drafted, and this is all he knows. So it was good to see Terrell Bernard able to replace Tremaine Edmonds that way.
Yeah, let's get into this game a little bit. Some of these matchups you look at, the Bucs offense has struggled as of late, and we just went over the Bills defense and what they've been able to do. The points allowed, the turnovers, sacks. If the Bucs, however, are going to be able to move the ball and try to put points on the board, something they have struggled to do all season, averaging just 17 points a game, what are the weaknesses on that Bills defense that they should be attacking? What should the game plan for the Bucs call for to be able to move the ball down the field and get in the end zone?
Hold on, man. I can't be giving that type of information. I'm talking to the ops right now. You can't have me up here, I'm with the ops now. Come on now.
All right, yeah. No one's watching this, so that's fine.
Y'all got Mike Evans. Just throw the ball to Mike Evans.
Yeah. All right.
Come on now.
All right. I mean, that works only sometimes,
Baker Mayfield might have a chip on his shoulder because, he was the number 1 overall and Josh took the shine or something. You never know. You know what I mean? So
what I'm hearing from you is the cornerbacks are where they should be attacking. Don't try to run the ball up the middle. Obviously, with Oliver, those linebackers have been really key. You're not going to try to beat them over the middle of the field. If they're gonna move the ball efficiently, they're gonna have to use Mike and Chris pretty much.
Well, at some point, because when the Bills shut down the run, they're gonna have to throw, right? So
if the Bucs even try to run this game, it hasn't worked out too well.
So we'll see which one gives. One got to give with either or, with the struggles that they've been dealing with. We'll see which one happens first.
On the flip side, let's move over to the defense. Bucs could be without Vita Vea, which is a huge loss, specifically stopping the run. He's been just a stud anchor in the middle, as he always is. But where is the weakness on offense for the Bills? If the Bucs are going to be able to slow them down, who are they taking away? What are they trying to do? Is it just rattling Josh to get pressure? On him to force, errant throws? Is it shutting down the run game to make them more one-dimensional? What do the Bucs need to do if you're drawing up the game plan to attack the Buffalo Bills on offense? What do they need to do to be able to accomplish that?
Well, you got to win up front. We all know the game is win up front. So, if they can win up front, then they're definitely going to have a chance to disrupt something, especially, with the Bills, especially if they start off in shotgun. So, it's one up front. If having Vita is a big loss because he's they wouldn't thank Tampa Bay for making that trade. By the way, you know what I mean. We wouldn't have got
both teams.
Worked out for both teams. Y'all got Vita, we got Josh. You know what I mean. So worked out. Really
We
hope
got a
you be able to
franchise
play him.
quarterback, they end up getting Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl. So which one, they both end up working out pretty well.
Right, they worked out hand to hand. So, yeah, it's the one in the trenches. If the Bills don't establish any type of run game, Tampa Bay have a chance.
Gotcha. If Vita Vea is playing, we'll see. He's listed, hasn't participated the last 2 days. But we all know short week, that can be a situation where, it's walkthroughs anyways. None of these teams are really practicing. They're just doing walkthroughs 2 times a day. So these Thursday night games, man, I hate Thursday night games. Like Monday night games are bad too, but like Thursday night games are bad because then you just, it's like you're up to, especially you'll be at the stadium tomorrow, so you won't get home till like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, I ain't gonna get home till about
And then like you're still like wired to go, so you're falling asleep till like 3:00, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Then you're up for work.
And stop at Mother's, the restaurant.
Right, exactly. Like home game, I still won't be in bed till about like 1:00 after post game and stuff like that. It's the primetime games are the worst, but they're also they're great because you get a especially on a Thursday, you get the weekend off. Get to watch some football, get some new stuff with the fam, or whatever. It's a little nice little break. All right, Mookie, I'm gonna put you in the spot here. We got score prediction time here. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this game? What do you think is going to be the talking points afterwards? And what's going to be the score?
I think the Bills would win this game if James Cook could get over 100 yards rushing. If James Cook get over 100 yards rushing, I expect a big day out of the Bills. If James Cook is not a factor in the run game, I'm still going to give the Bills a slight edge, 26-20. That's without an established run game. That's Josh Allen, last man to touch the ball versus Baker. I know he still got a personal in his mind that Baker went first over him, even though Josh, has more success in the league. But yeah, Josh, that stuff like that still drives that guy. And I would love to see him run some because, the word in Buffalo now is saying that they neutered. Josh Allen is neutered.
More running for him. You got to protect him.
Taking an element of the way, that is a little bit. So, yeah, those are some of the things. If James Cook rushes for over 100 yards, big day for the Bills. If he don't get 100 yards, Bills slightly win 26-20.
Yeah, I think that's a little closer than I even have. I've got I won't tell right now because my score predictions, but it's more than it's about a 9-point difference there. So I just think the Bills are still the better team. Even though they're reeling, the energy is gonna be electric up there. Tables will be smashed. Who knows what will be thrown on the field. And I think the Bills are just a better team. I think they're going to win this. I think the Bucs offense will get on track at some point. And I know everyone looks at this Bills team and thinks, oh, the offense. But I think the defense has been a huge part of the story this season. Their turnaround and finally getting some payoff on those edge rushers, that they've acquired through the draft and through the free agency and other avenues has been huge for them. And having some young guys step up. I do think that the Bucs are going to attack them. My keys to the game last week are the keys to the game this week. Get Chris and Mike going early. You've got 2 young cornerbacks that I think you can pick on. You're going to have one of the best safeties still in the game, although he's a little bit long in the tooth over them, giving them some help with Poyer and Hyde. But if you can get some one-on-one matchups with those cornerbacks, you got to take advantage of them. And that's how I think the best way is going to move the ball. But should be a fun game, I think. I don't think the Bills really start to pull away until later in the game. I'm talking about the third, fourth quarter, because that's been the Bucs' MO. They've been right in it with the Eagles at halftime, right in it with I even hate saying this, the Falcons, right in it with the Lions until halftime. And then they've just let these teams pull away in the second half. The defense gets gassed. The offense can't sustain drives, can't move the ball, can't get in the end zone. Red zone's been terrible. Third down percentage, which was the huge talking point about Baker, has certainly dropped in the last couple of games. And then they just kind of implode on themselves and, points start coming on the board. So I think that's kind of probably going to be the way it goes. I do think there is a path to victory. It's just a very small one. I think the following week is kind of when they can get back on track after a mini bye and you take on the Texans. So, I mean, and they've been pretty hot too. But that's going to do it. Muki, I want to thank you so much for coming on here, previewing the Bills. It's been great chopping it up with you. Great learning about this team. I hope everyone else learned a lot about this team and getting some insight from behind enemy lines with Muki Hawkins. Go ahead and promote yourself.
Hey, you can check me out, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WUFO Sports, WUFO Sports. Muki Hawkins, holla at your boy.
Awesome. Thanks, Muki. Have a good one, man. There you go. Muki Hawkins. We had a great guest on, as we do every week. Bleav podcast hooking us up with some awesome players, awesome podcasts. Awesome, like Muki Hawkins, sports director at the radio station. He's there. Heard him talking to McDermott the other day. Great insight on this Bills team that the Bucs are going to be facing tomorrow. This podcast is being taped on Tuesday, but you'll watch it tomorrow. And the game will be tomorrow to you. So Thursday night football, Buccaneers travel to the Buffalo Bills. It's going to be a tough game for them to get back on track with after 2 losses and dropping the divisional lead to the Atlanta Falcons, only half a game behind. So it's not time to panic. It's not time for, the cloud is falling, the sky is falling. It's the end of the world. Even if they do lose this game, I get it will be 3 straight losses. But you know what? In my early season preview, I had them having 3 straight losses anyways. It was losses to the Eagles, losses to the Saints, and a loss to the Lions. They've just done it in reverse order. They've got they beat the Saints and lost to the Falcons. So this was always a loss chalked up in my book. I think they get back on track. The good news is teams that I figured they might struggle with later down the road, teams like the Packers, haven't looked great. San Francisco is still going to be a tough test. Houston looks better than originally thought. Indianapolis doesn't have Anthony Richardson for this year. The Titans are absolutely a Titan trash fire right now. Jaguars should be a good test on Christmas Eve, that is. That will be a fun game. The Saints, who knows if they'll get right. The Falcons, again, later on in the season. Panthers twice. I mean, enough said. There's still a path for this team. Even if they lose this game and drop down to 3-4, finish with a 10-7 record. I really see it. An NFC South division title. I don't think it's time to worry about the game. Looks like Matt Filer's not going to be able to go. Aaron Stinney will be the first guy off the bench, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm told. So look for him to make that start at left guard. Maybe that gives the running game a little bit of boost with a different body in there. We'll see. But, the Buccaneers are really going to have to get Chris and Mike going early, take advantage of those matchups against those corners, get them in position where even if they're not singled up, where they're doing quick comebacks, things that they can take advantage and kind of manufacture man coverage on those guys to take away the safety help of Poyer and Hyde over the top. So there's ways for them to get this going. Defense has got to play lights out like they have been. Turnovers are going to be key. Antoine Winfield Jr. has been playing out of his mind. He needs to keep that up. Dalton Kincaid started coming on, but we know Delante's a tight end eraser, so they don't have to worry about that as much. Ryan Neal's got to pick his game up. Not enough to be said about that. Hainsey's looked pretty good the last 2 games, but still room for improvement. The Bucs can establish the run a little bit. You look at this Bills team, that's one area where they haven't been great at. They are giving up 128 yards per game, which is good for 23rd in the league. They're doing top 10 in almost every top 5 in most statistical categories that are really worth monitoring, besides getting into the deep stats of the EPA and the analytical stuff and like that. But just, your normal, run-of-the-mill stats where they stack up. Rushing yards per game has not been somewhere they've been doing well at. So if the Bucs can get that ground game going at all, maybe a fresh face like Aaron Stinney can help that, then, that will help open up everything underneath. Don't hold your breath. I'm not either, because we'd probably pass out for holding it for 60 minutes during the game. But that's going to be it for me. All my work is out there. I've got tons of content coming out over at Sports Illustrated Bucs Game Day. Make sure you guys are following us there, reading, brushing up on the latest Bucs news and analysis. Follow me at the Twitter handle at JCLNFL. You guys will know. This will be on my Twitter. But if you're just watching on YouTube, check me out there. I know I've had some new people find me on YouTube since that Dave Canales interview, so appreciate you guys tuning in. That was a big draw. We're going to get a lot of guys coming in here, a little more players. I'm working on trying to get another player on this Friday, getting a coach on next Tuesday. And if not, we'll have some stellar guests. I've got some great guests, some great industry guys around the league who are doing some amazing things, big names that you've heard of that we're going to get on here. We'll get some local names on here too. Some guys who are doing some awesome work in the podcast realm and the film breakdown realm. We've already had Josh Capo on to kick off the series. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the works, coming down the pipeline. I'm excited to share it all with you here at the Pirate Parlay Podcast, brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. We're out of here. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.